Welcome to the podcast series at the College of Education and Integrative Studies at Cal Poly Pomona. My name is Jeff Pass. I'm the Dean of the College, and we have as our special guest today Dr. Richard Navarro. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you.
Dr. Navarro, not only are you a distinguished scholar, which we will talk about in terms of your projects, but you're also the coordinator of our graduate program here at the college in the Department of Education. And I understand there's some changes in the works. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's new?
Well, since we've transitioned to semesters as a campus, we use it as an opportunity to really rethink what we're doing and how we can do it better. And so, one of the first things that we did was to more better integrate our teacher credential program with our master's program. It's what we call a combined credential master's, where students entering into the teacher credential program are able to take master's courses while they're earning their teaching credential, and then seamlessly transition into the master's program to complete a master's in as little as one semester following the teaching credential.
So, for those of us who are unfamiliar, the teacher credential is required by the state of California to be earned after you have a bachelor's.
That's correct.
So, anybody entering the program will already have a bachelor's degree, although some people might take undergraduate, graduate level classes at the undergraduate level during their senior year.
Right. Well, and most of those courses that they're taking are really part of the credential, sort of the pre-credential, the prerequisites, and also helping them to more smoothly move into the credential program.
And the credentials that are offered right now are multiple subjects, which is the elementary, single subjects, which is secondary, and then a specialization, which is special education.
That's correct. That's correct.
And we also have a program in administrative credentials, but that's not governed by your office.
Well, we work together with the Education Leadership Department, where that credential is housed, because now the administrative service credential is only available for those who have 5 years of teaching experience and then wish to move into an administrative role, such as assistant principal or principal at a school. And so they come to us to earn that administrative service credential, which they earn within about a year. And then those who wish to can continue on with just two more classes and a culminating experience to also get a master's degree in educational leadership.
So, what's so great about a master's degree? I've got one, but why would somebody want to get one?
I've got two, one in education, one in anthropology. Really, the undergraduate degree in most for most young people, at least here in the United States, is really a broader education. Many of us have our undergraduate degrees in the liberal arts, for example. Mine was in humanities, and so you really have an opportunity to really deepen your educational experience as an undergraduate. The master's degree helps you to specialize. So that with undergraduate you're broader in the master's degree, you specialize and really try to hone that craft, if you will, in moving into a particular area. Now, that doesn't say that there aren't undergraduate degrees that are highly specialized, which, of course, here at Cal Poly we have several of them, particularly in engineering and some of the science programs and so forth. We've had, for example, several engineering students who have come to us after completing their engineering degree and enter it into the teaching profession, because they learned that they didn't really want to practice engineering, but because the curriculum was so specialized, they stayed in that track in order to complete it, but then moved over into teaching, particularly in mathematics, is at the secondary level after graduating. So students come from lots of different areas, and not just the single track, for teaching credentials.
But a master's degree isn't just about getting prepared or qualified for a job. It's a deeper study of anything that can give you new insights and ways of thinking.
That's right. That's right. Traditionally, in education, um, a person would earn their teaching credential and then practice teaching for a period of time, and then come back and earn their master's degree. But now the world is changing, and we're seeing more and more that the master's degree is being integrated with the teaching credential. So the program that we've started tries to keep up with those trends, but we want to go further and make it a more meaningful experience so that, as you say, the individuals that earn their master's degree, it's not just an add-on to the credential, but it really is an experience that helps them to deepen their understanding, their learning, and their skills as a classroom teacher.
Right. And most of the ones, master's graduates that I've spoken to have spoken very highly of our program for doing that very thing. But what are the advantages of doing it with the credentials as we're moving towards? Is it a financial benefit for the student?
Well, that's really one of the big motivators, is that for all teachers, that if they have a master's degree, that they are at a higher pay scale than if they have just a bachelor's degree and teaching credential. Um,
How much are we talking about, roughly? I know it differs from district to district.
that's right, but it's usually between $5,000-$10,000 or
That's a
more.
lot of
Yeah,
money.
sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's a good investment to spend the money on a master's degree and your time, of course.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And again, I think we also need to ensure that it's a good investment in terms of improving practice.
Right.
And that's what we're committed to doing, is ensuring that those students who go on to earn their masters really have an experience that allows them to up their game, if you will.
And would that involve research skills, ability to interpret and apply research? What would give them this advantage over someone with just credentials?
Well, there's really two directions one may go into. One might be where they are focusing more on research because they may see further down the road interest in pursuing a doctorate, and so having those research skills will be very important. The other is more of more like what the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards has really focused on, which is the self-reflection on practice and learning from that practice and improving on that. To become a more accomplished teacher.
So by applying the theory of uh, instruction and theory of curriculum to your everyday career, you're more likely to make better decisions and be a better teacher.
That's right, and it's really developing a learning community as well,
Mm.
working with other teachers in that practice, and so that's what we hope to see is really our teacher credential program together with the masters really is creating that learning community where people are moving together.
Because teaching is a really isolated experience in that teachers seldom get the opportunity to view each other teaching or to talk about teaching. Uh, Many teacher lounges, uh, people need a break, and they're not necessarily
Hmm.
talking about the challenges of the curriculum or dealing with particular kinds of students.
Hmm.
So this enables them to work at it with other professionals.
Absolutely, and that's really the value. When I served on the board of directors of the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards, I heard over and over again from teachers that going through the national board certification process, whether they passed or not in that first try, was the most valuable professional development experience that they had because they did work with other with colleagues who were interested in analyzing their own practice and improving their practice and providing evidence of that growth and change. and so that's what we wanted to bring to our program as well.
And some of our graduates have told me that there's an increasing emphasis on data analysis in their regular teaching jobs, not just as department chairs or assistant principals or principals, but just as classroom teachers. And coming to Cal Poly Pomona for a master's has really helped them in working through all of that data.
That's right. Yeah. So increasingly, it's everywhere, and social media uses it. It's everywhere. The data analytics, and certainly in the classroom as well. We see a greater emphasis on data driven decision making at the classroom level too. And it has some real advantages because you have the opportunity to really disaggregate data to really look at your students individually to see the growth and students that may be struggling and so forth and then the opportunity to intervene in a timely way rather than waiting for the test results a year later after that class has already moved on and so it is a whole new era now.
So someone who actually has a master's degree, perhaps in something else, might benefit from a second master's degree in education just to keep up with the changing nature of the profession.
Sure, I agree.
Yeah,
I
we have to
agree.
spread the word around that.
Yes, definitely.
Um, so when will these changes take place? And are there other changes in store?
Well, they're occurring right now. So we already have, as I said, the combined credential master's program. We've seen a lot of interest in that amongst our credentials students, and so they see the ability to move through that credential and master's degree much faster as a result, and so that is now giving us an opportunity to look at our what I call our legacy master's programs and really ask ourselves to what extent are we really meeting the needs of teachers today with these programs and how might those be reformed, improved upon in order to better meet the needs not just for today but for the future as well. So special education has already done that. It's gone a long ways in revamping its master's program. It's been able to bring in grants to help support students going into that area, which is growing in demand. So we see growing interest and a really strong reputation for the quality of our graduates. You know, the best endorsement we can get is not only from the student but from the superintendent and the principal
Mm-hmm.
that hire our students when they come back and say, we know the Cal Poly Pomona really prepares teachers well. So that's what we want to ensure. And also looking at, right now the other area we have is the curriculum instruction, which currently follows a more traditional approach in that area. And so we really need to look at the degree to which that's really meeting the needs of the future. And I've proposed that we do a needs assessment where we really go out and talk with superintendents and principals and ask them what they feel that they need. We're starting a new master's jointly with our colleagues in Department of Ethnic Women's Studies that is intended to help prepare teachers to be more culturally responsive, culturally competent in the classroom and also in working with parents and communities as well. So also to be able to, for those that are interested, to be able to teach ethnic studies at high school and middle school levels.
And there's a growing interest in that change, whereas before ethnic studies was an option for students, and more school districts are recognizing that it's really for everybody and not just for those who have a special interest in the topic.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There have been a handful of school districts in the area that have really pioneered this. Pomona Unified has been teaching ethnic studies, particularly Gary High School, for over a decade. one of our students actually developed that program for them. Uh, but now we anticipate that this is also going to be a state mandate as well. So there have been bills introduced in the legislature in the past that were not signed into law, but had a lot of legislative support to for ethnic studies to be taught at the high school level. And we understand with the new administration that there is strong interest and support for that. So where are those teachers going to come from?
Right.
And what's the what is the kind of knowledge base that's going to be required for being able to teach ethnic studies at that level?
So there are teachers who are currently out there that might be teaching social studies or English uh, that or psychology that might be very interested in developing that new set of skills.
That's right. That's right. So that's why we want to be able to provide those services to be able to bring those teachers back, if not to complete a complete master's, then to be able to offer them a certificate. The state has advanced authorization certification, which we would anticipate would be a likely candidate for ethnic studies in the future.
So these are exciting times in the College of Education and Integrative Studies as we develop and refine our programs. And I understand these are also exciting times for you as you engage in new uh, opportunities for studying and serving the community.
Well, I've been continuing with my work both domestically but also internationally, and so I think that the project that I was most recently affiliated with in El Salvador, I think really addresses a challenge that higher education has not just in El Salvador, but around the world, and it's really how to be relevant to the needs of the private sector, the industry, particularly in STEM fields that we hear so much about. As the economy changes, higher education, has traditionally been, the institution that has prepared that future workforce. And so the needs of that future workforce are changing dramatically. So the question, that we have before us is how well is higher education prepared to meet those needs? So some of the same things we were just talking about in terms of changes within our master's program, I think can also be writ large across higher education as well. There's we hear terms like supply chain and value chain in the global economy and so forth. And what we oftentimes forget is that higher education is part of that value chain. So it's in many cases the beginning where it starts with preparing those future workers, those innovators, providing the knowledge that's going to lead to new inventions and so forth. And so higher education has an important role to play as our economy changes.
And that's, we look at the US economy or the world economy, but some of your work is for a small country where there isn't a lot of higher education in terms of the number of institutions. So you can really make a profound difference.
Well, a study was done in 2012 that really looked at focusing on El Salvador, and and really asking why the economy was growing at such a slow pace, and what were the obstacles to economic growth. And so one of the key obstacles that they found was the quality of human capital. That again, the education system was not preparing young people to enter the workforce with the skills and knowledge that they needed. So that led into a $22 million U.S. United States Agency for International Development project for higher education to contribute to the economic growth in El Salvador, and so RTI International won that contract, and hired me as their chief of party to direct that project.
So, what exactly are you doing for RTI in directing the project?
So what I did is I took a 2-year leave of absence from Cal Poly to be able to take that position. So I went to El Salvador, a place I'd never been, and so of course we hear a lot about the violence there and the problems there, and you have to keep in mind that El Salvador used to be the gem of Central America. I mean, it was, the most productive of the countries within Central America,
And a high
and
SES compared to the other nations
that's
there.
right, that's right. And then it went through a 12-year civil war, and came out of that in 1992. But still, 25 years later, it was still very stagnant, and you had a real division between the right, which is mostly associated with the private sector, and the left, which is associated with the universities. And so our job was to really to incentivize cooperation between universities and industries to work together to raise the quality of human capital from those.
So, is it just a matter of bringing all these smart people together and pointing out their common interests and working together?
Well, convincing them that they had a common interest was probably one of the biggest challenges, and because and I'm sure it's true here as well, that there are a lot of misconceptions, on both sides. The industry has about higher education, the higher education has about industry, and so but they could agree on one thing, and that was that there was definitely a skills gap between the two of them, and that needed to be closed. And so that was really the starting point. It was identifying the sectors in the economy that a would benefit from increases in the quality of human capital to become more productive, and B, were interested in participating and cooperating in this project, because not only did we have resources, but also they had to contribute resources. And the same thing was true of the higher education institutions. So in the end, we were able to get um, a majority of the companies that produce about um, 3/4 of the GDP within El Salvador to participate, as well as the universities that educated about 80% of all the graduates in the country as
That's
well.
significant by itself. Have you gotten any results from that cooperation at this point, or is it still waiting to show itself?
No, it actually the project was for 5 years, and so it's coming to an end this June. It's already in the closeout period, but the interest in continuing the activity in industry and higher education is still very strong. So they have a sustainability plan to move forward, and so I'll be on sabbatical next fall and opportunity to go back there and to really study what sustainability looks like, and how relations either have changed or remain after that funding
So you're
gets
going
withdrawn.
back now as a researcher rather than as someone who's trying to get the project going.
That's right. That's right. And again, going back to the reflection on practice, we just finished a article that we hope will be published in the fall on Industry and Higher Education Journal, that really looks at what did we learn from this experience, and what does it mean in terms of higher education industry relations in the future. And one thing we know is that, like all organizations in today's world, we have to be more agile in order to be able to more quickly respond to changing demands and needs. And as you know, higher education is not the most agile organization.
Particularly when you're part of a 23 campus system like the CSU.
That's right. That's right. But I mean, the legislature is very aware of the important role that we play, and so I think we'll continue to press us to be more responsive as well. And so those are those are the opportunities that we have really to bring about a change. So that's why I say that these are not challenges just for El Salvador. These are challenges for higher education in many different countries, but they're particularly important for small countries like El Salvador with low medium income, because they have the potential to really move forward if they can organize themselves in such a way. I mean, Vietnam is a good example of that, and many of the industries in El Salvador actually are competing with industries in Vietnam, and so innovation and productivity is essential if they're going to continue to compete.
So let me wrap this up by asking about you. What draws you to doing this kind of work? You've been in the higher education field for a very long time. Uh, some of the people in your cohort are retiring, but here you are studying new projects and taking on leadership roles. What drives you to do all this kind of work?
Well, I don't look behind me. I look in front of me and see what the next challenge is. I think that that's how I first got into this profession, was interested in challenge. I mean, recognizing that education plays such a significant role for myself in giving me the kinds of life chances and opportunities that would not have otherwise had. And so my mission has always been to extend those opportunities, not just to other individuals, but even at the level of other nations. And I feel I have been successful in many instances to be able to do that, to help make a difference, leave a footprint, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
in those places. And I just find that exciting, and I want to be able to continue to do that for as long as I'm able.
Yeah, and it's exciting for me too, as your dean, to see the kind of work that you and other members of the faculty are doing. Something probably the public doesn't realize when they think of college professors. They see, maybe instructors or people writing articles, but you are working out in the field and making a difference in multiple ways.
Well, thank you. Well, I've been very fortunate with the support from the dean, but from Cal Poly Pomona. The university has been very supportive of my work and allowing me to take these kinds of leaves to be able to do this kind of work in the field, but
So,
hopefully bring something back to contribute.
yes, it's one more example of how Cal Poly Pomona is making the world a better place, and I'm proud to be part of it too. Dr. Navarro, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.